Welcome to the Governor of College Football. Welcome to another marvelous episode of the Governor of College Football, and I am the Governor of College Football. That's right, also known as Lever KT. Before we get into today's episode, make sure you guys like, comment, share, subscribe. Fun fact, 97% of our viewership, and we appreciate our viewership, is unsubscribed. Don't forget, hit that subscribe button, engage that notification bell. That way, every time we upload content or going live, you get that notification. There's no off season with the CFB Nation. I hope you guys know that. The ones who know that and watch our content all the time, they already do. But trust me, no off season. We upload content daily. So now that we got business out the way, let's talk about today's video. We're going to talk about Tennessee Volunteers' path to winning the SEC East. And in order to do this the way that I like to do it and convey this message the way it need to be conveyed, we're going to break this down in a couple steps. First, we're going to examine the quarterback room. That was kind of the buzz thing heading into spring camp with Tennessee. We're also going to evaluate the offense and how that may change with the exiting of Alex Golesh. We're also going to examine the defense and ways that the defense can be better. And I think there's some hopeful signs for the defense. And then also we're going to look at the field, the other teams that are also going to be competing for SEC East title. We're going to talk about Florida. We're going to talk about Kentucky. We're going to talk about South Carolina. And, of course, we're going to talk about Tennessee. Sit back, relax, grab your favorite snacks. The Governor got you, and we're going to talk some Tennessee football. First thing first, let's look at Joe Milton. Joe Milton is a guy that, in order for me to describe him in a way I think that should be described, I have to compare him to a car. Joe Milton is that old reliable. If you're a Honda Civic fan, Joe Milton is a Honda Civic. If you're a Toyota fan, you like that Toyota Camry, he's a Toyota Camry. If you like Nissan, he's that Altima. He is reliable. He's going to last you for years upon years. You drive that thing about 300,000 miles, it's going to get the job done. But standing behind him is Nico Iamaleava. And I'm telling you now, Nico is that Porsche. Nico is that Murcielago. Nico is that Ferrari. He is a quarterback that can make every throw, and he's amazing when he decides to take off because he can scramble that thing as well. So from a fan perspective, you looking at Nico like, yo, this is our guy. We believe that we can win national championships with Nico. I believe Tennessee can win a national championship with Nico as well. But what is the reason that Josh Heupel and company continue to say that Joe Milton is our guy? There's a couple of analysts I really respect and I listen to a lot of. One being my brother on our platform, Nino. Another one being Jay Crane of Crane & Company. And they both are on the record saying that they believe Nico will be the starter by week 3 or 4. They're both on record of saying that. And while I respect the hell out of these guys, I believe that Joe Milton is the guy for the duration of the season. And I'm going to tell you why. In the Orange Bowl, we seen flashes of what Joe Milton can do. Joe Milton gave you 19 of 28. He gave you 251 yards. He gave you 3 tutties, and they dismantled Clemson. It was embarrassing. But also, not just that, throughout the season, he gave you 971 yards. He was 53 of 72, gave you 10 touchdowns and no interceptions. Yes, a lot of that was in mop-up duty, but he still was effective, and I believe Josh Heupel seen enough to know that they can win with this guy. I believe that they can certainly win with this guy. And that's not a knock to Nico at all. I believe that Nico was the number 1 quarterback coming into this class. I know some people believe Jackson Arnold, Oklahoma. He's like that. My apologies to Nino and my guy Boomer. Some people believe it's Dante Moore. I think Dante Moore is going to get a lot of playing time this year at UCLA. Nico is that guy, but I believe this year, I believe that Tennessee is going to go with Joe Milton for the duration of the year. Next, let's talk more about this Tennessee offense. Tennessee offense was beautiful last year. We seen Alex Golesh get knee deep into his bag several times last season. And the game that is shown on the screen now, that third Saturday in October, man. That was just beautiful. If you're not a college football fan and you watch this game and you watch the ending of this game and you didn't get goosebumps, you're just not human, period. You're probably like the aliens that they found in Nevada, or they think they found in Nevada. Whatever, that's neither here nor there. Let's talk more about their offense. Their offense averaged a whopping 46 points per game last season. They scored at a high mark. They was able to move the ball. They space you out. They use all 53 yards on the field. They like to use a lot of stack formations. They're not afraid to take shots. We've seen them use the post-will concept a plethora of times, and in the Jalen Hyatt wide open. I believe Squirrel White is going to put up, or can put up, similar numbers to what Jalen Hyatt put up this season. But let's talk more from an analytical base when we're talking about Tennessee. S&P Plus, if you're a college football fan, please check that out. S&P Plus is amazing. It gives you advanced analytics. I've always liked analytics. I believe there should be more analytics in football. We're starting to see it a lot more in basketball, and it's probably been used in baseball for years now. But there's a statistic that they use in S&P Plus called success rate. So let's look at Tennessee's success rate. So they evaluate a successful play as on first down you gain 50% of the yards to gain, the yards to go. You gain those. Or on second down, it's 70% of the yards. So let's say, second and 10, third down got to at least be 3rd and 3. So that's all they're saying. And on third or fourth down results in a first down. Tennessee did this, and as a whole, cumulatively, they did this at a 50% clip. And I don't think people realize how great of a stat. To do this on first down, you gain 50% of the yards. On second down, you gain at least 70% of the yards. And on third or fourth down, results in a first down. To do this 50% of the time, that means you guys were ahead of the sticks a lot last season. An awful lot. That means Alex Golesh was able to do exactly what he do. Yes, we know Golesh is gone. He's at USF. But I believe Joey Hazel, who's been with Josh Heupel for 15 years now, will be able to do a lot of the same things. I'm not saying that it will be robotic and that, Joey Hazel's going to do exactly what Alex Golesh would do in a situation, but the basic principles of this offense will be the same. It's essentially Josh Heupel's offense. It really is his. He doesn't call it plays, but it's essentially his offense, the offense that he's ran. They're going to be successful. They have players on the outside that I like their running back room, and I think Milton is going to produce this year. We talked about the good. Let's talk about the bad. So the defense last year, defense struggled a little bit, if we're being honest. They ranked 127th nationally against the pass. Terrible. That's what, 133? FBS teams, 127th nationally, and the fact they went 11-2, you got to clap it up, because you hear that and you think of how good of a defense like UGA was. You hear of how good of a defense like a Wisconsin was. Like there are teams with really good defenses. Iowa's another example of a team with a really good defense, but the fact that against the pass they were 127th nationally and went 11-2, you got to give that organization a pat on the back. Also, it was 21st against the run. Pretty damn good. I think they could keep that up this season. And also, I think overall they was 91st. So in order for Tim Banks and company to have a much better season this season than they did last season, that pass defense got to be a lot better. It has to be a lot better. And even though we've seen flashes, like we seen the game against Kentucky where, their defense played really well. They forced turnovers. I believe Will Levis probably threw for a total of 98 yards. We've seen that, but can they do that at a persistent clip? But on the flip side, we also seen Spencer Rattler, gave us his Roy Jones, y'all must have forgot moment when he absolutely tore Tennessee's defense apart. We remember that game, and he gave us flashes like, okay, now I see why this guy was considered, before the Caleb Williams debacle, why this guy was considered a top quarterback heading into the 22 NFL draft. It was the 2021 college football season. So if this defense can get better, I believe that we could definitely see a Tennessee team go on 11-1 in a regular season and probably play for the college football playoff and, of course, the SEC title game. So we talked about the offense. We talked about the defense. The defense overall, 91st, they got to jump up about 30 spots. Overall, 61st. And that 127, at least be top 70 against the pass college football. We have to see that this season, that we can't go against the grain on that. moving right along, let's talk about the field. Let's discuss the major players in winning the SEC. Of course, UGA is the first and the only thing that Tennessee fans want to hear about as far as what I think about them. But let's slow walk this. Let's talk about South Carolina first. So we're going to talk about South Carolina. South Carolina, it's difficult with me for South Carolina. Even when I did my rankings, I had South Carolina top 25, but they had the number 2 difficult schedule in the entire college football. And if you use the win-loss metric based on 2022 schedule, they have the number 1 most difficult schedule in all of college football. So it's difficult, but I look at Shane Beamer. I'm a big believer in Shane Beamer. I believe he eats, sleeps, drinks college football. I believe he truly breathes college football. We know who his papa was. We know what his dad was able to do in Virginia Tech. It's a tough schedule. It's a tall task. They definitely lost Jaheim Bell. Their schedule's the biggest thing for me. Like, you start out against a good team in North Carolina, then Furman, at Georgia, Mississippi State, at Tennessee, Florida, Missouri, Texas A&M. Great recruiting cycle for Texas A&M. Texas A&M is going to be a lot better this season. I know there was a laughing stock of college football. You can say them or Nebraska. Gave us a lot of great memes. Great memes. Wow. 2022 was such a great year for college football. But they're going to be a lot better this year. And don't be surprised after I say that they're going to be a lot better. Jacksonville State, Vanderbilt, Kentucky, Clemson. That's a tough schedule. So my biggest question of concern when it comes to the field for South Carolina is their schedule is just too tough. They're going to lose some ball games. If they come out of this thing even 7-5, I got Shane Beamer possibly coach of the year. 7-5 or 8-4. It's just like kind of like how Arkansas had that really tough schedule last year, and Sam Pittman was able to get that team to 7 wins. You gotta applaud that because it's difficult, and it's only gonna get more difficult when Texas and Oklahoma come to the SEC. So South Carolina, while I like the team, I like the makeup of the team. I think Spencer Rattler is going to play his way into a decent draft position. I know it sounds crazy with all the quarterbacks that are coming out this year, but I believe he could be a mid-round pick, especially if he, goes to like the East-West Shrine Bowl or the Senior Bowl and he plays great there. I think it'd be good, but I don't think South Carolina is it. Next, let's talk about Florida. Florida's a good team. Billy Napier had a great recruiting cycle. Their schedule ranked number 1 per K4. And make sure you guys check out K4. When it comes to ratings, K4 is my source. He creates these beautiful graphics. He's another guy. He's the assistant commissioner of the Horizon League, but he lives this. He really lives this. So, like I say, whenever he puts out something, I always make sure I do my due diligence, get his permission, but all credit goes to him. I truly appreciate K4. So, Florida, they opened up with Utah, and I believe that was just a 2-game agreement. Last year, you seen that Florida was able to win the game. Cam Robinson was driving down. He threw an interception near the goal line. They got McNeese in Tennessee, Charlotte, Kentucky, Vandy, South Carolina, Georgia, Arkansas, LSU, Missouri. And Florida State is a team I'm big on this year. That's a tough schedule. I think when you think of question marks this year, I believe Billy Napier may have to coach for his life this year because there are some sources that believe that he could be one of those hot seat guys. I believe that if you invest in a coach, it's so hard in the world of college football. They should be given 3 years, but it's not guaranteed they're going to be given 3 years. So he's going to have to somehow right this ship with as difficult as this schedule is. But between the difficultness of the schedule, similar with South Carolina, and Graham Mertz being a quarterback, that's not a knock on Graham Mertz. Graham Mertz certainly showed flashes while at Wisconsin. People make it seem like it was so one-sided when he was at Wisconsin. It wasn't all bad. He definitely showed some good. And maybe a change of scenery will help. But with those question marks, I'm going to eliminate them from contention for the SEC East title. Let's look at Kentucky. Kentucky is a team I like. I like the makeup of their team. And I believe that Devin Leary is going to produce more this year than Will Levis produced last year. I think here are going to be some of the contributor factors. The fact that they got Ray Davis from Vandy, I know a lot of people probably don't know who he is, but you're going to find out who he is real quickly. He's a bell cow. I can certainly see him getting 1,400 yards this year. Also, I think they're going to show up the offensive line. I think the offensive line is going to be a lot more formidable. The biggest thing that's going to help them, this is not a knock at Rick Scangarello, but we've seen times where Kentucky's offense was just benign. They just really couldn't move the ball. We seen it against Tennessee. They made Tennessee defense look amazing last season. I think with Devin Leary, I think with Liam Cohen, they're going to put something together, but is it too soon for me to say that? Do they have enough to gel immediately and win some games? And granted, their first 3 games are going to be, games 3-0, they're going to look good. I think Devin Leary's going to put up numbers. At Vandy, you just want to say, okay, that's an easy win. I'm not sure if Vandy's an easy win anymore. We've seen that Vandy actually beat Kentucky last year, and they also beat Florida last year. So it's in Vandy, but I'm sure Ron Davis got that game circling. He's going to go crazy that game. And then it's Florida, Georgia, Missouri, Tennessee, Mississippi State, Alabama, South Carolina, Louisville. That's just tough schedule. So similar to the last 2 teams that I mentioned, that the schedule is really difficult. And in year one of it's going to be similar to last year's offense, but Cohen runs it differently. I think he's going to simplify it. Devin Leary, his first year there, I'm not sure if it'll be able to all gel together, but I like Kentucky. It wouldn't surprise me if they won 8 or 9 ball games. Now, let's talk about what you guys really want to see outside of Tennessee. Of course, let's talk about Georgia. And we're going to get deeper into this path of how Tennessee could possibly win the SEC East. So Georgia's schedule is something that, critics like to talk about. There's no surprises there. They really like to talk about the schedule. I'm not sure how they'll be able to continue having a that's not middle of the road. It's above average schedule as far as difficulty, but not as difficult as like, a Kentucky schedule or a Tennessee schedule or a Florida schedule or certainly not a South Carolina schedule. But they open up with UT Martin at home, Ball State at home, South Carolina at home, UAB at home. What does this mean? This means that Mike Bobo can get comfortable as a play caller. The last 2 stints we've seen with Mike Bobo didn't end well. At Colorado State, even though I should have prefaced that by saying I have a great deal of respect for Mike Bobo. If you've been watching the channel for a while, you've heard me say I admire Mike Bobo. He's a stand-up guy, and he's one of the few left. But didn't work out at Colorado State. Brian Harsin, I don't want to say it was a scapegoat, but in year 1, he got fired with Auburn. Things just didn't work out there. So here he's replacing our play caller, Todd Monken, who's now with the Ravens. Todd Monken got the best out of Stetson Bennett. He really did. They won 2 national championships with Todd Monken being able to call plays. And of course, they got Bowers at the tight end slot. But a player like, McConkey, I'm not saying he's not a great player, but he looks like a fantastic player in that system. Will Mike Bobo be able to yield some of the similar results that Todd Monken was able to? That is my biggest question with Georgia. But they're going to get Carson back comfortable. They're going to get him very comfortable, and he's got big shoes to fill, trying to fill those. But with UT Martin, Ball State, South Carolina, UAB, it's a good group of games. I think if that South Carolina game was in South Carolina, I would say that one might be an interesting one. But if I'm a Tennessee fan, the game I'm highlighting is that Auburn game. That's the game I'm highlighting because it's hard to go there and get a W. And what Hugh Freeze is bringing there, I think they're going to piggyback off the momentum that Cadillac Williams was yielding at the end of the season. That was a great keep by being able to keep him. Some of the players that they have on their roster, I am giving Georgia a loss at Auburn, and I know it sounds crazy, and it's going to sound crazy for forever. I'm going to get talked about in the comment section. I don't care, but I truly believe that Auburn can win that game. I truly believe that. Kentucky at home in Athens, I'm giving that one to them. At Vanderbilt, I'm giving that one to Georgia. Neutral site game against Florida. Florida will compete, but I'm also giving that one to Georgia. Missouri, Georgia. Ole Miss is another game that I believe that Georgia can possibly lose. I gave you the first one in Auburn. The second one, yes, is in Athens against Ole Miss. But I believe, I don't know what way they're going to use Spencer Sanders, but I know he's going to be utilized. Big fan of Kenshawn Junkins, and his family also are supporters of our brand, so I truly appreciate that. I believe that Ole Miss has the makeup to go into Athens and get a win, as crazy as that sounds. And then they have to travel to Tennessee and to Georgia Tech. I can see a scenario where Georgia can three-peat. I absolutely can. I am not one of them people to say that they can't. They can't, even with all of the talent that they lost the last couple of seasons. They have such a great pipeline. They're able to replenish and do it again. But that loss of Todd Monken is going to hurt. It's going to hurt. Whether you want to say it or not, Mike Bobo is fantastic. He was an offensive analyst for them last year. But to be able to step in that play calling situation, be able to make those tough calls and those tough moments, that's what I need to see from Mike Bobo. That's what I need to see. So I can certainly see a scenario where Georgia loses 2 games or even 3 games, but I can also see him win it all. I know it sounds crazy, but it's just my thought process. Now, let's look at Tennessee schedule. Let's talk more about this. So, Tennessee 15th ranked schedule according to K4. K4 has a winner somewhere around at peak 8.7 games. I think Tennessee can run the table. I don't think Tennessee will run the table. And I'm explaining why. That Florida game is going to be difficult, but Tennessee's winning that one. Virginia, I'm telling you, for all the Joe Milton doubters, Virginia is rebuilding, bro. And I'm telling you, Joe Milton is going to light it up. He's going to absolutely light it up, and some of that Heisman talk will start then. Then they play Austin Peay. Then Florida, UTSA, that'll be a tough game. South Carolina, tough game. Texas A&M will be a tough game. At Alabama, I'm not sure, even with the players they got on the outside, even with the defense, even with, I feel like Nick Saban has been rejuvenated. I feel like he was not making a college football playoff. I feel like the David Pollack comment, like he took that on the chin, boy. He took that on the chin. He ain't like it. You seen him look. He ain't like it, but he took it on the chin. But I don't believe their quarterback room is where it needs to be. But I believe in that coaching staff. I believe in the culture. And I believe if anybody can play, with a lesser quarterback room, it's Alabama. Kentucky's going to be a tough one. UConn, Missouri, Georgia. The game I'm most worried about on the schedule is Georgia, of course. They're at Alabama. But you got to win one of those games. I believe Tennessee's, the best path, of course, is going undefeated. I don't think that's going to happen. To go at Alabama, at Kentucky, home against UConn, and not a pushover at Missouri, and then, home versus Georgia. That's a tough stretch right there. So I think the true path for Tennessee is to go 11-1. Whatever shape or form, go 11-1. The best way to go 11-1 is to beat Georgia and be 11-1, and maybe that loss is against Alabama or Kentucky. But I think 11-1 is the path for Tennessee to win the SEC East. For everybody who made it to the end of this video, I didn't intend on it being this long. But, hey, I love talking college football. I'm sorry. I get ahead of myself sometimes. But I truly appreciate you. As I always like to say, do something nice for somebody you normally wouldn't do. Always pay it forward. Peace and love. Peace and blessings. And until next time, y'all already know what it is, man. One. Welcome to the Governor of College Football. Like, oh.